Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tarrance Lackran. I am the Director of Partnerships and Programming at the Vision Council, and I also run the Vision Council's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force. And on behalf of the OAA, I want to welcome everyone to pursuing diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workspace. Now, we have an amazing group of panelists that are so passionate on the subjects of diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm going to turn our attention to introduce them. But before we do that, I would love for you all to just use the chat feature. And I have a question for all of you. And the question is, what does diversity, equity, and inclusion mean to you? So just type it in the chat. Nothing long, maybe a sentence or a word. But when you think about that term, diversity, equity, and inclusion, what comes to your mind? I'm first going to, I think I'll start from west and make my way to east. Adam, tell us a little bit about yourself as well as the organization you represent.
Sure. So hello. First, thank you for letting me speak here today at the OAA Virtual Leadership Experience. A really great opportunity, and very grateful to both Debbie and the organization for inviting me. So my name is Adam Bentley. I'm a licensed optician, and I'm the manager of optical field operations for Warby Parker. Currently based in Los Angeles, and I think a fun fact, I was actually one of the first opticians at Warby Parker over almost 9 years ago. So really cool to see a company start from the ground up.
Well, very good. Great to have you here, Adam. We're going to now move far east. We're going to move down to the academics. And Jenny, let's hear a little bit about you and a little about your organization.
Yes, so good morning all. My name is Jenny Marcelin. I represent Benjamin Franklin Institute of Technology in Boston, Massachusetts. We are the only school the only college in Massachusetts that has the opticianry program. And then right now, I am currently working as the Assistant Director of Admissions, which is something that I really treasure because as Professor Wong, the chair of the Department of Opticianry, puts it, the opticianry now has a voice in the admission department, so I recruit students. So I get to tell more about the opticianry program because I just graduated from the opticianry program last August.
Wow, congratulations, Jenny. I didn't know that. That's awesome. Yes. Yeah, look forward to hearing more of your insights. So let's keep it Boston. We'll turn to your Boston brethren, Dr. Howard Purcell. Howard, let's talk a little bit about you as well as what's going on in NECO.
Thanks, Terrence, and I'm really pleased to be on here with my distinguished colleagues. I'm Howard Purcell. I'm President and CEO of New England College of Optometry, proud president and second generation graduate of the college. Dad went here back in the 50s and I graduated in the 80s. Also proud to say, since Jenny's here, we have a wonderful partnership with our friends at BFIT, and we cherish that very much. For me, maybe since Adam shared something you don't know about him, maybe something you don't know about me. My very first job in academia was teaching at Miami-Dade Community College in the contact lens program there, and that's what kind of got my career started. I was in private practice in the area, so always had a fondness for my colleagues in opticianry, and I'm really honored to be participating in this discussion. Thanks for including me.
That's awesome. Howard and I have known each other for a while. We've done Howard, 4 panels on diversity together. And this is the first time I heard that story. So
yes. I've learned every time, Terrence, and thank you. And thank you for all the efforts you continue to make. And I really salute OAA as well for making sure these are discussions that we're all having together. And I'm certainly pleased to be a part of that.
Definitely, the conversation is necessary. So shout out to the OAA. We got some really great comments there about what diversity means, the golden rule, everyone matters, equality, all those things are really important to this discussion. But I'd like to start this discussion off by just going really to the basics. What exactly, how do we define what diversity, equity, and inclusion is? So I have this brief slide. Again, it's going to be 2 slides. The first one here really defines the difference of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Sometimes we put them all together as one. So diversity is easy, right? We can visually see a presence of differences within a given setting. It's something that we can assess with quantitative data, we can assess with our eyes. But when we get now to inclusion, it's a little harder. This is talking about allowing people with different ideas to have their feelings, to being valued, leveraged, for them feeling welcome. This is something that we will only get if we're able to really have those conversations. Now, sometimes those conversations may be a little uncomfortable, but in order for them to be comfortable, we have to have more and more of those conversations. But equity can be hard sometimes to admit, because equity really relates to accountability. Equity is an approach that ensures everyone's access to the same opportunities, and it recognizes that advantages and barriers do exist, and that as a result, we all don't start from the same place. So recognizing that within your workplace, there'll be some from other demographics that don't have the same vantage points. So we come up with different resources, employee resource groups, recruitment metrics, things of that nature in order to leverage and have a more equitable environment. Here's a visual for you. Bazoma St. John, amazing woman if you don't know her. At 35 years old, she had occupied a C-suite at a Fortune 500 company, a Black woman, a mom, a widow at 36 years old. She now is the Chief Marketing Officer at Netflix. Diversity is being invited to the party, but inclusion is being asked to dance. Does that resonate a little bit? Can you see it a little bit more? When you think about when we say diversity, equity, inclusion, it's more than just the numbers. It now also goes to when we think about how people feel and are they included in the conversation. Let's get to some questions, please. If you have any questions, go ahead and type them in the chat, and we'll try to get to everyone's questions here. So Adam, I'd like to start with you. So recently, the Vision Council, we conducted a DE&I survey. And during that survey, about 82% of opticians felt that it was important to focus on DE&I, which, just like you know, was a little bit lower than the industry average of 87%. So in that case, why is this important? Why should we even focus on DE&I?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, you know, and our goal is to create safe spaces, I think is one important thing for our employees. And also, you know, create a globally diverse representation. So like example, like Warby Parker, like it's important for the company to seek and to understand and address the experiences, perspectives, and feedback of all of our employees. Because like our mission is to impact the world with vision. And to achieve this goal, you know, we strive to celebrate the diversity, background, and perspectives of every employee, our customers, and even our partners. Because I think we want to build humility and really question our own biases to ultimately cultivate a workplace based on inclusive behaviors where all employees feel that they can bring their true and authentic selves to work. You know, and we also want to ensure that everyone has the tools and resources for that upward mobility. And by creating these safe spaces, that means caring about diversity through having diverse representation, but also caring equally as much about like inclusion, which emphasizes here is a space for all of us, like we all belong here.
May I, if I can add to that?
Yeah, please, Howard. Go ahead, jump in.
Maybe more a little from an academic perspective and from a practitioner perspective, both opticianry, optometry, ophthalmology. In the end, better outcomes. If we just want to talk about the end result, we know this. This is a fact that when your doctor, your optician, your practitioner looks like you, you're more likely to trust them. You're more likely to follow their instructions. It's about outcomes. And we have to do a better job. You just narrow it down to that. And I'm not discounting anything Adam said. I agree with everything he said. But from the standpoint of what we do every day, if you really want to boil it down, we have to for many reasons, not the least of which is better care, better outcomes. From an academic standpoint, that's something we think about a lot.
Well said, Howard.
And I can piggyback on what Howard just said, because in the standpoint of academic, when you, like in our case, where you have 74% of our students are people of color, and you need to make sure that the staff, the faculty that are serving this population do represent them. So when we take into consideration diversity, equality, and inclusion, these students are better represented and they feel better about themselves to being in a school where they see, like I would say, someone who looks like me, someone who can understand where I'm coming from, someone who can understand my thought process, someone when there's a problem in my life that is affecting my schooling, I can go to the office and actually sit down with a success coach who can understand where I'm coming from. How is this personal matter? Let's say I don't have money to pay my cell phone. How do I go to school and then leave my people at home? And then if I have a child who's sick, how are they gonna reach me? No, I can't go to school. I have to stay home. But when you get to come to a place that has nothing, probably you can say nothing to do with your personal life at home, you have someone who can understand that. It's definitely a game changer in in helping students achieve success.
Yeah, and I'm envious of Jenny. I will tell you, so just put this in perspective. Jenny mentioned the percentage of people of color and underrepresented minorities in her institution, and perhaps in optometry in general, I don't know, but optometry, 3% of our current student population are Black. That is just not where we need to be. We need to do a better job, and I'm envious of our colleagues in optometry who really have done what appears to be a much better job than optometry has.
Well, Howard, one thing I think that drives our that high percentage that we have is because we are a college of trade. So we know a lot of the trade industry is mostly geared toward minority people. They tend better to come to that industry. So, and then also our location, you know, the environment that we serve, the people that we serve, they tend to more come, but definitely it is the 3% we need to work on it to get the word out more so people know that this industry exists. We need more people that represent minorities. So when we go out there, when we have our licenses, we're working, we are able to represent everybody.
I agree. And Terrence, if you'll allow me, since Adam's here, I just want to say, one of the reasons we've been able to accelerate things is because of the generosity of this industry. And since Adam's here, I will just thank our friends at Warby Parker for really seeing the value in supporting initiatives like this, and it's making a difference. Let me assure you, we have a long journey to go. I think optometry and ophthalmology all have a journey to go, but working together with partners like Warby Parker and others who have been so generous to us, I know we will get there. I'm confident we will get there.
You know, Howard, that's what I'm really impressed with, just how active and proactive the industry is getting now when it comes to DE&I. You know, that has spread all throughout, especially that inclusion. We have a ways to go with diversity, right? But that's just the first step. How do we now get to that part where we've shown the inclusion? And Adam, you brought out something I'd like to circle back on. You saying that you want people to be comfortable to bring their 100% whole self to work. What does that mean? Bring your whole self to work.
You know, I think a lot of, and from even personal experience, you work in an environment where you feel that you can't be who you truly are. Well, because, you know, I think in our place of work, we always encourage our employees, like even like simple things as dress code, thinking about dress code. How, you know, I think that is even a larger conversation in and of itself. But it's how do you have systems in place where, like, if I have an issue, I have someone to go to. As we brought up, employee resource groups. How do you ensure that you have a place to go to, like Jenny brought up with students? So we want to make sure that we have an environment where you can come as you are, whether it's a customer or an employee, you feel welcome. Because one of our core values as a company is to treat others as they want to be treated. And by ensuring that we're doing that, we're ensuring that we're welcoming you as you are, both our customers and our employees.
And I wouldn't say that's a small thing about a dress code, Adam. You know, I think sometimes when we water down a dress code, we don't realize we could be watering down someone's culture. You know, New York had a set of law about the not being able to talk about Black women's hair. Think about when someone comes in with a dress code that's a little bit unique. We may say, well, is that appropriate? It might be a little too out there, a little too worldly. But really, that could be just me expressing my culture. So you have to be really careful when we're talking about the dress code piece as well. So,
speaking of dress code, Terrence, I have to comment on your bling, man. You are looking really good. I need some of that. That is really cool stuff, my friend. I had to say that. Sorry.
Well, I was hoping you would say that. No, as Howard knows, I love a great message. I love accessories. You know, on Instagram, I'm the optical poet because I love eyewear and expressing myself through eyewear. I am channeling our Vice President Kamala Harris today with my T-shirt. I'm speaking. Just being able this discussion. Diversity and inclusion means that we have to also close our mouths sometimes and just listen to people, and allowing marginalized groups and underrepresented groups to have a seat and maybe even speaking last at the table sometimes. So I think we have to think about that as well. And this bling is actually, if I may promote it, it's actually a collaboration chain, and 100% of the proceeds goes to the Open Your Eyes Scholarship in order to bring more Black and brown opticians into opticianry college. So we'll talk a little bit about that a little later as well. All of you are doing some amazing things. Your organizations are really blazing the path for DE&I. But Howard, let's talk with you. You mentioned a little bit about the scholarships. Is there anything specific you want to talk about that NECO is doing to push forward DE&I that we can look at our organizations to get some ideas from?
Yeah, absolutely. And we've had so much great input on our journey. When I first started at NECO, I had a chance to attend a course at Harvard for new presidents of academic institutions. Only in Boston would you have such a course, right?
Right.
A gentleman named Freeman Hrabowski. Freeman is the current president of UMBC, University of Maryland, Baltimore County, once viewed as one of the most racist institutions in the country. Today, pretty much held out as the example of how you take a journey and how you get to where you want to get to, all the things that we've been talking about. Freeman has adopted our little institution, and we appreciate that, and has provided a tremendous amount of support, and has led us to sort of this 8 or 9 step approach. So maybe I'll just cover a couple that I think are helpful, at least have been helpful to us, and hopefully will be helpful to others, whether you're in a small business, a large business, whether you're an employee of a business. I think these are things that you can do. First of all, is we needed somebody who would own it. Someone who was going to spend their time focusing on diversity, equity, inclusion. They think about it all the time. That we felt was critically important. And we're seeing a lot of that in a lot of industry today. And I think it's great. We had a wonderful person, Dr. Angela Abraham, happens to be a Black woman, happens to be a Black female optometrist, who's been through the journey herself. And we really couldn't think of anyone better to be able to help others through that journey. And Angela's just done a wonderful job. I couldn't be any more proud of what she's done. She was a full-time clinician, and she's really adjusted herself to focus on this area, and it's helped us tremendously. She has formed an internal group. So I would encourage all of you, if you haven't done this already, form a cross-functional internal group. So for us, it's faculty, staff, students that are represented, and have discussions about what's going on. Where I sit, where some of you sit, you may not have the visibility all the time to see what is really going on. And with that internal group, it can be incredibly helpful, and already has been, and in particular, making it cross-functional. So all groups are represented. This has been a great asset for us, and it's been going on now for about probably almost a little less than a year, and incredibly helpful. Equally as helpful was an external group. So yes, it's nice to have your internal people who know your business and understand it, but if you can bring external experts in, you know, we were so fortunate to get people who have been head of diversity, equity, inclusion at JP Morgan, head of diversity inclusion at these large companies around the country. They've been working on it for years, thank goodness, and have experienced so much that they can bring to us. So I would encourage your group not only to form something internally, but try to bring some external perspective in, try to find people who've been in this space a long time who can really give you a good perspective. We needed to have vehicles for feedback too. That was something we thought, oh, well, if you have any issues, come and talk to us, no problem. Well, no, not really. Not everybody is comfortable, feels like they are okay doing it because maybe there'll be some, consequences to them sharing what they've observed. So we really felt it was critically important to find vehicles for feedback. By the way, we went old school. People laughed at me at first, but it's working. We put a box up. You write a little note on a piece of paper and you stick it in the box. We don't have to know who you are if you don't want to. And that one, like I said, my team laughed a little bit. Our team laughed at that, and now it's actually being used pretty significantly. We also have a website that, if students want or anyone in the institution wants to make a comment, they can do it. So make it easy for people to give you feedback. You want the feedback. The only way you're going to be able to make change is to give the feedback. I have a few more I want to let my colleagues talk, but those are at least a couple things that we're doing that I've, public acknowledgement, by the way, I'll just add that one, is critically important. You come to NECO, and we have the most amazing facility. We're in an old historic building. You walk around our institution, you see older white men in portraits all around the building. That is our history. That's who started us. But by the way, we learned there are incredible women who've contributed to NECO from back in our early stages. There are incredible people of color who've contributed to our institution. So we need to be proud of that. We need to show it. We need to understand that our background, fortunately, is very diverse, and we need to be proud of that and put it front and center. And that is what we're doing.
Someone said, Zachary said, hey, don't fix what isn't broken, to your suggestion box idea, by the way. So Jenny, what's going on at Ben Franklin that we can draw some insights from?
At Ben Franklin right now, what we're doing under the leadership of Dr. Francis is we are working on a task force that will be able to write down the goals that we want to achieve. But at the same time that we're working on that, what we are already doing is like 50% of our contractors, they're from small business in our community. They're from women, minorities. That's who they are, the ones who are helping us, especially with us trying to move to the new place, new college that we're building. We are working with minorities. That's who we are working with. Our HR people right now, it's the contractors are a minority small business. The accounting department as well is the same. So we are not just putting on paper or trying to put on paper, this is what we want to do. We are actually doing it. So staff, faculty, student, everybody can see that they are represented. When you come to the HR office, I mean, virtually at least, you can see someone who look like you, who can represent you. You can understand you. When it's accounting department, you have any HR, any. My son is trying to break in. Sorry, that's the life of being virtual.
All right. He's a fan of his mother. He's a fan of his mother. I love it.
Yes. Yeah. So these are the things that we're trying to do. And even under Dr. Francis' leadership, the board of trustees that we had didn't have as many people of color. Now that number is doubled. Just 2.5 years, that number is doubled, and then we have 36% people of color on that board. So what we are trying to work more on that is having more equity, because we don't have enough women. We're trying to have more women. We have 6 women on the board, 12 men, we're working on that. But these are the things that we are doing until we can actually get on paper what we want to achieve. But we think, some people might say, oh no, you need the paper first, the policy. Yes, we need the policy, but to actually doing something, people can see, just like when we had the George Ford that event last year, the school immediately came up with meetings for students to come and share how they feel, and so they can see how the college was able to respond to make sure that student, faculty, staff, everyone felt recognized, felt heard. They had a space where they can talk. It's not just talking about my classes, they're not work. No, we all had a place where we could share our feelings about what was going on at the moment. So these are the type of things that we are doing at the college.
Love that, Jenny. I love that. Adam, I know Warby has quite a bit going on right now on this space. I'd love to hear what you guys are doing.
Just to recognize both what Howard and Jenny said, I think there's some of the things I just pulled from that is recognize there's a problem, talk about it, and then take action, show your action. So I think those are probably the most powerful things that we can do as organizations. And one thing that we're doing as an organization, we ensure that we have, to ensure an inclusive workplace, we connect our employees, creating like the idea of community. Across the company, we have our ERGs, which are employee resource groups, and we've expanded our ERGs to be Warby Parents, Warby Women, Heritage, which celebrates our ethnic and racial cultures, and then also PRISM, which celebrates our LGBTQ+ employees. And then last year, some may know, but we shared our racial equity strategy publicly as a company. You can find it on our website. And it's our plan to promote racial equity within Warby Parker, but also the industries in which we operate, and then beyond that as well, because there's so much more we could do as an organization. And it's broken down into 10 goals that expand upon inclusion, equity, and diversity efforts. And it's to foster equitable opportunities, experiences, and representation for our Black and BIPOC team members. And obviously it's an evolving thing. We've always had our core value of doing good and expanding on that. And just quick examples of some of the things that we're doing, like goal 2, increase engagement and belonging among our BIPOC team members. So we've just launched our Warby Parker Academy, which is specifically teaching leadership skills. We also have employee resource group peer mentorship programs, so our employees can learn from one another and flex on each other's expertise. And then a new one that's really exciting is a diversity and inclusion retail district lead. So this position ensures there are honest conversations happening and feedback is being gathered in our retail field teams, because as a larger organization, it is kind of hard to make sure that you are reaching everyone and everyone has like their voice heard. And then goal 3, really quick, is just, create more growth opportunities as well for BIPOC team members. And then 4 is build greater fluency. And I think this is another important topic, is building greater fluency around the topics of inclusion, equity, and diversity. So currently, we're training and retraining 100% of our team members on mitigating bias, practicing inclusive behaviors. So some of the workshops that we're doing are inclusive workshop trainings, inclusive interview workshops, supporting colleagues during racial trauma workshops, inclusive workplace series for both our executive and senior directors. And then also guest lecturers, just inviting people from outside to come and speak. And we record those to ensure that every single one of our employee has access to that as well. And I can keep going. Actually, the last one's really exciting. And this,
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, Dr. Purcell knows this, but impacting our industries. How can we impact the industry? So increase Black representation in the field of optometry, and then also in the technology sector. So we've set aside money to impact those 2 areas. And for example, 2.7%, as he shared, of optometrists identify as Black. So this past fall, we partnered with NECO, the New England College of Optometry, and announced our first Warby Parker scholarship. And the scholarship has been awarded to 2 Black scholars, and is a full ride tuition for the college's 4-year Doctor of Optometry program.
Yeah, I'm glad you shared that. I'm glad you decided to share that. That is huge. Funding, taking away debt is a huge part of being to attract a more diverse talent pool. So we look forward to meeting those 2 scholarship recipients, Howard.
Yeah, if I may add, first of all, Adam, what can I say? It's amazing that you guys have done what you've done, and certainly other members, since you started it, other members of the industry have now gotten involved too, and I just think it's wonderful. What I was mentioning before we went on with this is that I've now had a chance to talk to the 2 recipients, and it's everything we hoped it would be. There's just 2 amazing people who would not have had an opportunity to go to optometry school if not for the generosity that we've received. So just it warms my heart. I hope everybody's heart to see that, and that you guys do step up and put your money where your mouth is. Terrance, there was 2 other things quickly that my colleagues made me think about that are still things that we're doing that I think are worthy of mentioning. Certainly training. And it's not a check the box training. It's really getting into some training for us, just as an example. We wanted the training to take place not only as formalized training, but in the classroom teaching our students when we're talking about cases, opticianry, optometry, ophthalmology. We all taught cases, bring in cases that represent diverse patient populations, talk about unique cultural differences. So we're really trying to embed it in everything we do. I recognize not everyone's an educator here, but at least understanding what we're doing, what's the corollary in your business. But for us, it's making sure we ingrain it in what we do. And then the last one is setting goals. You have to, I mean, anyone in business knows this. If you don't set goals for yourself, you're not going to get there. We've set some pretty lofty goals for ourselves, and you can come up with whatever you want. We latched on to 13% because that is the population, the Black population in the US. And if we can come close to matching the population, we felt that was a good target for us to reach. We're a long ways away from there, but it's not a bad thing to set a lofty goal for yourselves, because you'll never, ever even consider getting there. You know, Jim Collins, you know, he always talks about, you know, your big, hairy, audacious goals. Yeah, BHAGs is what Jim calls them. And, you know, that's what we have. We have a big, hairy, audacious goal. But you know what? If you don't set those goals for yourself, then you'll never even come close. And I would encourage all of us to set, you know, lofty goals for ourselves, at least some goals to say each year we're going to improve. I think it's critical that we all do that.
I agree. Yeah, we got a really great question from Danny Ventura. He said, we know things are getting somewhat better, but what do you think is the one big thing that is keeping the optical world improving, or should keep the optical world improving? Maybe you get one person that wants to take that. I have my thoughts on that, but I'll let one of you answer it.
Being the only non-optician in the group, maybe I'll let my optician colleagues say, but I think it's a great question. I'm not even sure there is one answer, but I'd love to hear what Jenny or Adam have to say.
But personally, I think it's people don't know us. They don't know exactly what we do. When they need glasses, they think, oh, I'm just like going to Macy's, buy a pair of shirts, you know, and then that's it. No, that's it. There's more to it than just selling. We're not salesperson. We are, you know, an industry. We are in health industry. So I think it's a lack of, even from ourselves, to let people know who we are, what we do exactly, so they become interested in our industry and then, you know, be part of it to enlarge the group. Because if we're not talking about it, when people ask, oh, I sell glasses. No, you don't sell glasses. You know, there's a way of for us to sell ourselves to people, to sell what we do as opticians, that will help people understand, oh wow, yes, it's something that I would love to be and be part of it, to know more better. Where can I go to school? And then you can see Benjamin Franklin is the only college in Massachusetts that has the program. Why? Because they're not, the demand for it is not big. So we in the industry, we, the people who are already licensed, the business owners, we need to talk more about it. We need to market the industry better, so people can know about it and be interested, so they don't think we're just salespeople. That's what I think it's the problem.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You brought up something about, you know, our organizations too, Jenny. All of us here, we come from, industry-wise, medium to larger organizations in the industry. We all have boards, we all have HR departments, we all have budgets. But a lot of people here that are tuning in, they may be smaller business owners. So what can smaller business owners do in their practices or their stores in order to promote a more diverse and inclusive environment?
I'm happy to take that. Oh.
That's a good one. Go ahead, Jenny.
I was gonna say they can start by changing their signage. You know, it's like recently, I don't know Dr. Purcell, I don't know, but in Rosendale, Nico is there. I go there often. That's where I go for my eyes needs. And then recently, I noticed the signage was different. I saw Black people. I'm like, what? It seems like it wasn't there before. I have no idea, but one day it just caught my attention. I was just driving by. I had to pull over to look at them. I'm like, wow, this person looks like me. I was impressed, you know? So I know, especially now, we are taking a big hit financially. I understand that. But if you start with something that's so small, it will make a difference. You know, people passing by, they have a need, they're like, oh, I can go in there and see what's going on because I saw someone who looks like me on the signage. So something like that can already make a difference in the community.
Yeah. Howard, you had a thought as well?
Well, no, I was actually just going to add to exactly what Jenny said, and thank you, Jenny. I mean, that's an intentional effort we're making. It's awfully nice to know that, you know, shame on us for not doing it before, but at least now we've gotten smarter and we're making progress. I totally agree, though, and I think one of the other pieces is we tend to hire people like us. And so make sure as part of your hiring process, you have some diversity. It's just natural. You know, you talk to somebody, I meet the three of you, and it turns out that Adam, I like the best because he's so much like me and I can relate to him, and resisting that urge. I've learned this a long time ago, worked for 2 Fortune 500 companies. I've been through some of this, and you have to resist this urge of hiring people that are like you, unless you're bringing a more diverse panel to interview. And I think that's a first step. And it's really just building on what Jenny said. Let people see there are people that look like you here. This is a welcoming environment. And then you have to work on making sure it is a welcoming environment. That, you know, this is wonderful that Warby Parker has brought us this incredible scholarship and these 2 incredible students that are going to benefit from it and more. We better make sure when they get here, they feel comfortable and it's an environment they feel comfortable. You know, back to Danny's question, I love Danny Ventura. Everyone knows Danny. She's just an amazing person and contribute to this profession. I had the pleasure of working side by side with Danny. But what's really holding it back? I think is awareness. I think it's the same thing that holds back optometry. I bet if I asked Jenny, if you went out there and you told the story of opticianry to a group of people, you could get them excited about the profession. I believe the same thing about optometry. So we need to get out there and increase awareness, and not in the usual places, but let's go to some of the unusual places we're not as comfortable going. HBCUs, other places, at least for optometry. We've been very poor at aggressive recruitment in those places. That is changing dramatically. And I think that's a really positive sign. So I think awareness, but awareness in the right places and maybe moving a little bit out of our comfort zone of where we're used to going, right? We always go, we go to these, at least in my business, we go to these institutions, we're going to get great students from there. That's great. But we better be flexible about going to other places. And I think for Jenny, for Adam, it's going to other places, may not be, academic institutions, but just going to other places where you can get a more diverse pool.
Definitely. So I've got the 5-minute mark. So Adam, I want to ask you this question. I think this really relates to your organization. Not everyone here is a business owner. Not everyone here is a leader, right? A lot of people here tuning in, they're employees. So what can employees do in their organization? They don't have decision-making capabilities there, right? What can they do to push forth a more equitable agenda?
Yeah, I think, actually, before we even came to the event today, previously we had all met together, and I think Jenny actually said something that really stood out to me from our previous conversations, and that was, how do we all individually impact this? Whether you're a policymaker or you're an employee, we're all individuals, and we're all kind of approaching this as individuals as well. So I would say, as get involved. Like, what events exist? Like, are there employee resource groups you can tap into? If not, can you start one? Educate yourself. That's a great way to start. I think there's a lot of, examples of like our bystander training or unconscious bias training. You can access that outside of work, and that's something that you can take on yourself as an individual. And I think, also, let's see, grab a cup of coffee with someone you may not know as well. Something as simple as that, you're creating a more inclusive environment because, diversity is the end goal. Inclusion is kind of like that verb. So how can you be more inclusive? So what are some of these actions that you can take as an individual? And it could be as simple as take someone to coffee that you haven't met yet, get to know someone.
By the way, I'm not allowed to drink coffee, so I'll have to change it to tea or something like that. I can't stand still without coffee. Terrance, can I share one quick thing that really struck me last night? I was thumbing through the New York Times, and interesting article, and there was a statement in there, and I think it's really powerful. And I wanted to make sure before I ended, at least in my portion, I mentioned this if you hadn't read it. Our nation's talent is evenly distributed. We don't have more talent in one race than another. We don't have more talent in one sex than another. We don't have more talent in these subgroups than others. So if you are seeing your talent unequally distributed, then you are missing on a big opportunity. And I just thought that was incredibly powerful. I'll say it again, our nation's talent is evenly distributed. Keep that in mind as you look at your workforce, as you look at the people you're working side by side in. Don't miss those opportunities. Because by the way, you asked earlier, what's the downside of not having it? And I mentioned certainly there's lots of reasons, but don't forget the input side. Your customers are diverse. And if you're not getting diverse input, you are missing out on a big opportunity, and you're probably going to stumble a lot more than if you did have that diversity. So our nation's talent is evenly distributed. Don't forget that.
Absolutely. Recently at our summit, and Howard, you were there, we had Emmanuel Acho as our keynote author of Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man. He said something that just stuck out with me. He said, in order for us to be it, we have to first see it. So in order for us to have more optician students out there and those in the workforce, we need to be able for them to look and see, wow, I see myself in this profession. In order for us to see leaders in our industry, in order to have more diverse leaders, we need to hire first the leaders of all different ethnic backgrounds and genders, so that those who are on that employee pool, the leadership record, they can say, oh, this is possible because I see it and I know I can be it. So I want to thank all of our panelists for being here, sharing your insights. We have a lot more to share, but unfortunately, time is against us. So thank you all for joining us, and we're going to turn our attention back to Julie. So thank you all. We appreciate it.